Hello, I'm Drew Pickens, and in this video we are going to be discussing the idea of various closing styles to help you through any situation you might run into as a salesperson and having a flexible approach to any type of closing opportunity. So the idea of having flexible closing styles really helps you to have a plan for any anticipated situation that might arise. You don't want to rely on just one style or technique. You want to make sure you have a lot of tools in your tool chest here to help you with any kind of a closing challenge that might arise. And it also helps with creative ways to answer some customer concerns or maybe overcome some challenges along the way while you're at the closing stage of any type of sales conversation. You want to be prepared with a closing style based on how the sales conversation is progressing and understanding that, it builds confidence to have a lot of styles and having a lot of tools, and with that confidence comes success. So it's just like the person who stretches and exercises. You don't just do one stretch, you just don't do one exercise, but when you have lots of flexibility and you can use all of your muscles, you're prepared for just about anything that would arise. So it's the same thing in a selling context. You want to have those closing muscles exercised, toned, and ready to go for when that challenging situation arises. So we're going to look at a lot of 7 different closing styles, and we're going to group them into 2 separate categories. The first category we're going to call the direct or simple closes, and these closes are very simple, very straightforward, and they are really the foundation, the basis through which any type of close would take place. So it's important to have these 3 direct or simple closes ready at the go and be confident in using them. The first one is the ask. It's just a direct question. Can we earn your business today? This is a yes or no question essentially. Now, it works. You want to find out whether you can go ahead and get the deal done, and sometimes you just want to come right out and ask the person. But the rule of thumb on asking any kind of a yes or no question is it's not good to ask this question if there's a likelihood you might get an answer that you can't do anything with. So obviously, if you think you're going to get a yes, if you're getting some clear buying signals and the yes looks like it's likely, then an ask is good. This is okay to ask as well if you get a no, you have a plan in place to handle the no. So it's only good as if a yes or no is actually useful to you. So the yes is obviously great. You have a plan to handle the no. If you don't think you're prepared for a no and you want something else, then we don't recommend you use the ask. So another choice you might have is the alternative close. This is offering a choice of 2 alternatives to the customer. So instead of asking for a yes or no response, really you're asking them to choose between A or B. So would you like to begin using us starting today or tomorrow? So either one of those options works for you as a salesperson. So what you're doing is you're empowering the customer to make a choice. Instead of saying yes or no to turn you down, you're really asking them to make a choice of when they want to start using you. So you see how that works. So in other words, either one of those answers works for me. So I'm great asking that question. If you feel like you're getting even stronger buying signals, where the customer is with you all the way, or you feel like this conversation is really going well and you don't want to stop the momentum, then we recommend the assumptive close. That's the idea of using mini closes throughout the conversation, and you're just working with the assumption that the sale will take place. I call this the Jedi mind trick, right? It's the these aren't the droids you're looking for approach, essentially. I'll go ahead and have your account set up. I'll get with your operations team and have everything ready to go starting tomorrow. So you're just moving forward as if everything is working along perfectly fine, and there's no reason to stop this momentum, and it just heads towards things starting. So you're not asking them anything, really. You're just moving forward and setting up all the blocks in a row to make sure everything can move forward. So obviously you don't want to use that approach if you're not getting very strong buying signals and the person is really with you all the way. So those are the 3 direct or simple closes. And now sometimes the situation gets a little bit more complicated. And because it's more complicated, we have complex closes, or what we call prefix closes. And they're complex because you're going to use these as prefixes and then put the direct close on the back end. So you see how it becomes a little bit more complicated. The first prefix close we want to introduce is the idea of a summary. This is where you just briefly summarize the main points that you've discussed, and then you tack on a direct close on the back end. So for instance, as we discussed, our solution will allow your company to do such and such and benefit in this way. And as a result, we'd like to go ahead and earn your business today. Can we go ahead and get the contract signed? So that's a summary with an ask on the back end. You can summarize an assumptive, right? If it's a clear discussion that everybody's agreeing to, then you do a summary with an assumptive on the back end. If you're getting the sense that the customer needs some reassurance, perhaps, then the reference close is a great example. So this is saying, well, XYC Incorporated was able to lower their expenditures by implementing our solution, and I would love for you to benefit that way too. So why don't we go and get you set up? I'll get with your operations team, and we'll get you guys started tomorrow. So that's a reference with an assumptive tacked on the back end. Obviously, a reference with an alternative is good. So if you're going to use a reference, it's probably best to use an alternate alternate or an assumptive on the back end, because those go really, really well together. In other words, the reference reassures, so why not go ahead and continue on with making a choice. Concession is another complex close. This is where you give up something to get the business, and this is kind of like the very end of the negotiation process, essentially, where you're trying to bring it to a close. This is, it's not negotiating, but it's closing off the negotiating and getting to the point where you can actually have an agreement. So you give something up to get the business. So if you agree to commit this piece of business to us, I can guarantee this price that you're looking for. So in other words, I'm willing to make my guarantee, but you need to make your commitment as well. So these two things are part of the concession. It's a trade. And since we're doing that, do you want to go ahead and start with both of these platforms today, or you don't want to start with just the local platform? So that would be a concession with an alternate. Right? A concession goes really good with an assumptive, because if you're asking them to make a commitment and you're going to follow up, then why not continue on? So a concession with an assumptive is also an excellent combination. And then the last complex close we'll talk about is the caution close. Now, understand there are good cautions and there are bad cautions. So a good caution is an example of something that's going to be a good thing if the customer makes a decision. But caution close is all about explaining the disadvantages of not making a positive decision soon. So the good caution would be something like, if you commit to starting using us today, you can avoid a rate increase next year. So that's a good caution, right? If you make a commitment right away, then you're going to benefit in some way. So that the disadvantage of not acting soon is you're going to lose that benefit. Bad caution would be, if I don't hear back from you by the end of today, I'm going to have to pull this offer off the table. That would be a bad caution, right? If you don't act today, you're going to lose this deal. I'm going to back out. So that's the call within the next 30 minutes type of approach, right? So the caution close is a good way to get the customer moving. If you feel like you're stuck and they're just delaying and delaying, it's a line in the sand approach, essentially. This is as far as I'm going to go. Let's go ahead and get something done. But again, it can be done in a good way, and it can be done in a challenging way. So those are your 7 closes, and the reason why you want to have a lot of different close techniques in your toolkit is because you can run into different situations. So what we're going to show you here is how you line up your close technique with the different situation. So if your customer is wanting to delay and they're just holding on and not getting back to you and not acting, then the caution close is the best way to go. This is, if you don't want it now, I'm going to pull the offer approach, right? Or, hey, I've got a good deal, but I need to hear from you by the end of the day so I can make sure you take advantage of this deal. It gets them moving. If the customer needs to feel they've done a good job, in other words, if they need reassurance, then a concession is a good way to go, right? Give them something so they feel good about the choice to buy. You don't ever want your customer going away feeling like they aren't happy about it. You want them to feel like they've accomplished something. So a concession is a good way to give them that feeling of satisfaction. If you've got this high driver dominance personality that you're working with, and they want to make the decision and control the conversation, then alternative is a great one, because you're just giving them choices. You're Mr. in charge. Why don't you make a choice? Which one works best for you? So those high dominance personalities love the alternative close. If the individual needs reassurance, if they're just not really sure and they're kind of wavering on whether this is the right thing to do, then your reference is great. You're bringing in anecdotal evidence from someone else that you've helped, and that really provides reassurance. And again, the reassurance goes really well with an assumptive. If they've just taken you down a rabbit hole and you're completely forgot about the need-benefit conversation that's taken place and they need reminding of that, then the summary is a good way to kind of encapsulate everything and bring the conversation back to the benefit they're going to realize by purchasing your product. If you're getting very good firm commitment all along the way, and you're getting lots of head nods and yeah, I like it, we love this, I can see this working, that good commitment, then just go straight into assumptive. There's no reason to ask a question, just really talk about implementation at this point, and keep the positive vibes moving forward. So that's when you want to have that assumptive close. And then if you're just getting good buying signals, this is a step below firm commitment, but just good buying signals that are very clear, head nods, no pushback or anything like that, then there's no reason to go ahead and ask for the business, right? And let's just really start to move this towards closure. So ask works really well on that spot. So remember, you've got these 7 different styles to be able to allow you to adapt to any situation that might come along. So you want a toolkit full of good tools that you can use in any situation. So have a plan for any anticipated situation that could come across. Think about the different styles and what situations they might work with. And so you don't want to rely on just one, right? You want to have lots of techniques. You want to be versatile, and that helps you come up with creative ways to overcome some challenges that might be sticking points here at the end of the conversation. And it helps you to be prepared, right, based on how the conversation is progressing. So if it looks like it's going well, then just keep leading towards that way. If it's not going well, then you might want to pull the concession or the caution out to try and get it steered back into a positive direction for you. And again, you'll find this builds confidence, and with that confidence comes success. So success definitely builds on the heels of having confidence with closing. So those are the 7 styles. Remember to be flexible, remember to be adaptable, and ready to use any one of these at any time. And practice them, and I'm sure you'll find good success. So wish you best of luck in all of your closing endeavors.